Segment 5, the prospect for the future. You begin Economic Facts and Fallacies with two quotations. One is the frontispiece for the whole book, and the other heads the first chapter. John Adams, your first quotation. Facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence. Second quotation, economist Henry Rosofsky. Quote, never underestimate the difficulty of changing false beliefs by facts. Close quote. Now here's what throws me, Tom. That first quotation, John Adams, is a fundamentally optimistic quotation. John Adams is, of course, a Democrat. He helps to found the country, and in all his writing, all his life, he has this basic faith that people exposed to the facts and the evidence will come around and assimilate those facts and evidence and make decisions based on them. The second quotation couldn't be more pessimistic. Never underestimate the difficulty of changing false beliefs by facts. So on the scale of optimistic John Adams to pessimistic Henry Rosofsky, where's Tom Sowell?
Well, I'm right there with Henry Rosofsky, or perhaps a little to his right.
Oh, come, you were supposed to say you're right in the middle. You're way over here. Really?
Yeah, I think that we're raising whole generations who regard facts as more or less optional. You have kids in elementary school who are being urged to take stands on political issues, to write letters to congressmen and presidents about nuclear energy. You know, they're not a decade old, and they're being thrown these kinds of questions that could absorb the lifetime of a very brilliant and learned man. And they're being taught that it's important to have views, and they're not being taught that it's important to know what you're talking about. It's important to hear the opposite viewpoint, and more important, to learn how to distinguish why viewpoint A and viewpoint B are different and which one has the most evidence or logic behind it. They disregard that. They hear something and they hear some rhetoric and they run with it.
Tom, you saw the election of Barack Obama as a triumph of sheer vacuous hopefulness over seriousness and realism. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. Since then, he's elected in November 2008. We've seen the emergence of the Tea Party, the recapturing of the House of Representatives by a large Republican majority. Just days ago, Congressman Paul Ryan of Wisconsin puts forward a budget proposal that I think you consider serious and far-reaching. Have these events, let's put it this way, has the reaction to Barack Obama encouraged you about the state of the United States?
I've always believed that there have been pockets of sanity. But it is by no means a foregone conclusion that he will not be reelected next year.
Pockets of sanity is the best we can hope for?
Well, it's the best we've seen thus far now. I'm always happy to see some miracle, some knight in shining armor riding out of the wilderness.
Tom, one of the most, you write a lot about race and economic facts and fallacies, and we've gone through that in this discussion. And frankly, it's heartbreaking.
It is.
We think we've made progress, and the reverse is true in many ways.
Yeah, we've made progress.
Rate,
we've made progress in some respects. We've had painful retrogressions. I think in terms of education, there's no question in my mind that kids who grew up where I grew up in Harlem don't get nearly the education that I got when I was growing up there.
Okay, so let me put this question to you with regard to race. John, you remember John Rawls and his famous veil of ignorance.
Oh, yes.
So let's just say that you're an African-American child about to be born. Do you choose 1930s America, the year in which you were born, or do you choose America in 2011?
I'm afraid that if you're not born in the South, you would choose in the 1930s. In the 1940s, New York had one of the finest public education systems in the country. I came up from Charlotte, North Carolina, where kids from Charlotte.
How old were you when you came up?
9 years old.
Okay, so
kids were routinely put back a year when they moved from Charlotte to New York. The latest information I have on education is that among the major cities in the country, Charlotte is now #1. New York is way down the list.
Dr. Thomas Sowell, appearing on this program just over 2 years ago, quote, "There is such a thing as a point of no return. If Obama won the White House, you said he would pursue disastrous economic policies. I suppose you think he's done just that."
Oh, yes. I'm one of the few people who's not disappointed in him.
You know, now this should be depressing, but I find myself laughing over and over again. As I say, it's either that or tears. Yet the economic policies you said a little over 2 years ago, quote, "will pale by comparison to what they will do in permitting countries to acquire nuclear weapons. Once that happens, we're at the point of no return." Close quote.
Yes.
That hasn't happened. As far as we know, Iran still doesn't have nuclear weapons. Just give me your general view of the state of the country right now. Let's start with foreign policy, since that's what you focused on a couple of years ago.
Well, you know, Theodore Roosevelt said his foreign policy was to speak loudly and carry a little stick. Obama's foreign policy in Libya has been to speak loudly and carry a little stick. I'm sorry.
The other way around.
It's the other way around. He speaks softly and carry a big stick.
Right.
Obama speaks loudly and carries a little stick. And we see the disaster that's starting to unfold in Libya as a result.
With regard to economic policy?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, George W. Bush in 8 years ran up a record-breaking addition to the national debt. Obama has topped that in just 2 years.
And
no sign of it's coming down.
And no sign of it's coming down. I feel we're out of time. I feel a tremendous impulse to try to find some question that will permit you to end on a sunny, upbeat note.
Ask me how old I am.
How old are you, Tom?
I am 80 years old, and that means that I may well not be spared, seeing where all this is going to lead.
Tom Sowell, I'll cry after the cameras stop rolling. Dr. Thomas Sowell, author of many books, but most recently this revised edition of Economic Facts and Fallacies. Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Peter Robinson for Uncommon Knowledge. Thanks for joining us.